Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Digital Dilemmas. I'm John Murphy.
I'm Burr Clevenger. Thank you for joining us.
Digital Dilemmas is a Lenk Media original podcast. So, you know what? We don't have any guests this week. I thought it'd be a really good time. It's the first week of June, and we've been doing this for about 5.5 months. We've had a lot of great guests, all ages, all industries. And I thought today would be a really good time when I was thinking of what could we share with our listeners to talk about humans, to talk about the human role in all of this. And what I mean by that, Amber, is we've done a lot of hand wringing. We've done a lot of positive, exciting um, topics. And I don't think we have focused yet on just the human part of this and the role that we all play. And I wanted to talk about that today.
That sounds great.
So one of the things, so there's a few areas here. One of them is, and I think I want to talk about all of them as we get to them, the role of leadership, the role of, that could be coaching in sports, it could be leadership in the office place. From a human perspective, I want to talk about that and the role that plays. I want to talk about the difference between the roles that government and legislators play and corporations play. Yeah, so those are the three biggies I want to talk about.
Well,
So why don't go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think there's been consensus for most of our guests that when it comes to AI and any real emerging technology, um, that business is going to take the lead.
Yeah, in other words, the marketplace.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of what prompted me to think about and talking today about this topic. There was a case this week in Australia where the secretary of what they call e-safety, Julie Inman, she, someone I follow on LinkedIn for a couple of years now, she's a global leader in safety for children on the internet. Australia passed a law, um, a lot of laws protecting children, and they had a test case recently where there was a lot of violent video on X demonstrating murders. And under the Australian e-safety law, she attempted to take that video off of the internet. Long story short, the case failed, and the country of Australia had to drop the case against Elon Musk. Why? Not that they admit quote unquote defeat, but they admit and share with all of us that it's so difficult that when a individual country passes a law targeting a social media platform in this particular case to protect the children of Australia, it's a global company, it's a global platform. How can you get them to take it down? It's virtually unwinnable. So it brought to my attention the limitations that governments have with emerging technologies and how the marketplace and us humans are going to decide what we want to see and don't see.
Well, and I think that's true whether you're us or whether you're 12.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that a little bit. Us humans, what do we want to see and what do we don't want to see? Now that we have these emerging technologies that get more sophisticated by the month, and these technologies impact societies, people, etc. If we are the determining factor on what is safe, what we want to see, what's okay to view, what's okay to download, then it kind of brings everything back to people. And so my question is, I don't want to be a downer, but how can we trust people to make that decision? And we have to when, for example, uh, and I don't want to get into politics because this is not a political show, but almost half of the population of the United States is okay overlooking the the background of one of its candidates for breaking many laws, being now a convicted felon, and they basically that those individuals say that's okay. As long as
Well,
he
you
does,
can't.
as long
Okay,
as that
but
person does
isn't
what
that
I
how
want to do, I'll
you
vote for them.
can't? You can't trust people. That's why, I mean, that's why there's government. And even if you could trust adult people, you can't trust teenagers. So
Yeah, that, but
the fact that America doesn't even have a head of e-safety
right.
would be the first problem. Um,
But what we're talking about here is governments, how limited they are in their ability to legislate this.
well, and I think there's different ways to go around it. Um, you can, I think forcing the platforms to take down content is not is not necessarily the only approach. Um, you can require that platforms have stricter enforceable guidelines for uh, if the device or the laptop or whatever is in the hands of a minor, there should be, it should be possible to put parental controls on it such that there is certain content that the person who owns that phone can't see.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. I want to take this and make sure we're very clear with our listeners that after 6 months, here's what we've learned. The role of corporations. The role of a corporation is to do the best it can to return an investment to its shareholders, et cetera. Would that be a fair statement, just at a high level?
Sure.
The role of governments are to do the best it can to provide a balanced environment for economic growth, individualism, freedoms, and safety.
Okay.
The role of individuals is to do what? What's our role in this?
Well, right now we don't have one.
We use technology. We're the consumer.
That's all we are. We don't have we don't have a functioning, adequate way to tell either government or corporations what we want to see and what we don't want to see. But that's sort of a larger question. What I'm saying is that parents should have the ability to put controls on their kids' phones that limit the content the that whoever is holding that phone is able to see.
All right, so let me just take that point. A government can and has the obligation to provide some legislation to protect those under 16.
Yes, yes.
And that follows the guidelines of several doctors, psychologists, et cetera, that say, even emerging tech leaders, those under 16 should not be exposed to a lot of this stuff. And that's one area that government could play a role that is maybe slightly enforceable, at least enough to make it culturally the norm. So is that a fair summary?
Sure. But it'll never happen
All
because
right.
that's never going to be I don't think that's ever going to be like a what do they call it? There aren't going to be single issue voters who vote for people on that platform alone.
right. And this is one of those shows that I can't wait till the second half of this year. I'm hoping to get callers to call in because I would love to hear what callers and listeners think about this. So you're saying you don't think that will ever happen because that would require voters to go to the voting booth and vote for someone who is a supporter of that type of legislation.
That's right.
So where does that, so as I thought about this, where that leaves us is teachers, coaches, leaders in your workplace. Those are the people that parents, first and foremost, that have the most influence on individuals in making these consumer decisions. And where are we each in that space these days?
Well, I think teachers are getting fed up. There's more and more stuff in the news every day about restricting phone use at school. Um, so I think that might be in the immediate future, whether it's, not secondary school so much, but kindergarten through high school. Um,
But would that require a board of ed and or a teacher to be to take the lead
well,
with their student population in order to
I think I mean, there was something in the news the other day about how New York is looking at doing something like that.
yeah, New York is
And
thinking of doing that. That's a
so,
state.
right. So I think state by state, that's something that I could see happening over the next several years. But, it's a question of how much good that does, because the kids still get their phone as soon as they leave school in the afternoon.
Yeah, I get that part. So, but that's a little too much detail for me. Take this, go up a step higher. You're a teacher and you want to do that. You're and we talked about the other areas in a second. Will students follow that teacher and say that's a good idea, not a good idea, rebel, not rebel? The reason I'm bringing this up is players who play for coaches, students who work in the classroom with teachers, employees who work for leaders in the business world. If those leaders, teachers, coaches, what are the skill sets that they bring to the table that I think is, I think what we're seeing here, I know, is that it's going to require, this is what 6 months of this topic has brought to me. It's going to require greater leadership amongst parents, teachers, coaches, business leaders every day.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think you could almost say any leadership.
Yeah, I brought those four up because they were first on my mind, but it could be any leadership.
No, you said greater or better leadership, and I'm saying any at all.
Oh, yeah, any at all would be really appreciated. So one of the things I was reading today, I know that Bill Walton passed last week, so I read a lot of John Wooden quotes again, who I was a favorite of mine back in the day. Read a lot of Gino Auriemma quotes. Read some quotes from Gary Vaynerchuk, uh, some other people that I follow, and there was a theme in almost all of their quotes that was top of the list. If the leader, coach, teacher, whatever the category, business, student, sports, if that leader invests in their students, invests in their employees, invests in their athletes, and shows them that they care about them, that they will follow and they will respect them. And it brought to my attention that's what we need more of.
Yes, but I think that, I mean, I don't think there's a huge movement on the part of coaches or teachers or parents to put their own phones down.
Well, yeah, from a technology perspective, yes, agreed. and not just putting phones down, but how do we go about our jobs? How do we use technology in the workplace? How do we talk about technology? What things do we value? Do we value just money? Do we value um, the individual? What are we showing the people who are following us? I think we're talking too much about technology, and I think what I want to talk about is get a little bit beyond that. I know it's a little bit out of scope. You're looking at me like I'm nuts, but it's on my mind.
Okay, explain to me what you're talking about.
If if after 6 months of this show we have learned that the marketplace is going to be a big determinant, that puts the pressure on leaders or people being leaders of any kind of leadership, as you said.
Yeah.
Leadership is more than just telling people to put their phone away. Leadership are the decisions we make professionally, the decisions we make in the office place, the decisions we make in the classroom, the decisions we make on the athletic field. What I'm saying is I think, and I think I said this a few shows ago, all of this technology, all of this emerging technology is happening so fast, it's putting pressure on humans to grow, to evolve.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We can't just be sloppy and lazy about things anymore.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think that and I also want to make it clear that I don't think the answer to emerging technologies or to, the spread of technology is to ban it or to keep kids off their phone or anything like that. I think the opposite. I think that too often the reaction from authorities is fear-based and comes in the form of a ban. And I think, sort of to your point, it's putting an obligation on people in leadership roles to learn how to use these tools themselves and model appropriate usage.
Yeah, agreed 100%. And thank you for bringing that up because I thought about that in preparing for the show today. Is that I think it's fair to say after 6 months of the show, these technologies are not going away. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who's going to be a guest in our show this summer, and she might have been the third person just in the last week I've spoken to that have all said the same thing. The adoption of AI tools in the business world on an everyday basis is becoming more mainstream every minute. It's now maybe not even a big deal in some places,
Yeah, I don't think there's any debate about that.
right? So the debate we had a year ago of, oh my gosh, should we not use AI? Should we not have it in the classroom? Should we put it aside and put a temporary hold on development until we know more about it? I think all that is like history and kind of a joke at this point.
Right.
So with that said, and these tools, I think we can even stop talking about AI as something that we should debate about even being. I think it's more of an emerging technology conversation about how humans adapt. And that's why I'm talking about how humans adapt is pressuring humans to evolve quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. And I think that if they don't evolve, it's okay because that generation will be dead.
You're in quite. Oh my God.
Well, I'm
Kind of true.
serious.
I get it.
I mean, I don't mean it's okay that they're all gonna, well, I mean, circle of life, whatever. But I just mean at some point, in 50
I know,
years,
I
the
get
people
it.
in charge are going to be people who grew up with AI.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going with this. So I don't want people to think this is a a highfalutin conversation. I think this is really real in the sense that if you're in third grade, if you're in eighth grade, if you're in 12th grade, if you're a college student, or you just graduated college, they're all using emerging technologies every day, and there'll be more coming tomorrow. The pressure it puts on all of them, and we as adult leaders are trying to help them with, is, hey, guys, change is inevitable. Change is going to happen all the time. The conversation, if we still have this podcast in 10 years, this conversation we're having now will seem like a joke. It'll be so old. Point being, though, what we can do is help the humans, our friends, evolve, us
Yeah,
to evolve, become
yeah.
better people, become better leaders, become better consumers, so we make better choices.
Well, I think you do that by being better informed, and I think that's why we started the podcast.
Bingo. Bingo. And I think what I'm trying to do is get to a place where we can define that a little bit. What does
Define
that
what?
mean? Be more
Being a better
informed,
human?
being a better human, like just as a consumer. I don't want to preach to people as how to be better.
I think it's being informed.
Right. Being informed and being open to what's happening and listening. Like if you're sitting in a classroom and the teacher's talking, or if you're in a business meeting and the presenter's speaking, be open to what they're saying. Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, but also inform yourself about the latest technologies. Don't put your head in the sand.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah, don't be afraid. Come on in, the water's fine. I mean it.
I do. I agree with you. Um, so one thing so on a similar topic, I want to talk about what's in the news today and use it as kind of an analogy. I want to get your opinion since yours is usually a unique angle. I want to talk for a second about um, the UConn basketball coach as an example. So the UConn basketball coach, for those of you not in the know, the UConn basketball program here in the University of Connecticut, very successful, two national championships back to back. Just recruited one of the top classes in the country of student athletes from high school and other schools to transfer in. Kids come to campus literally Monday because the student athletes start their summer session a few days ago. Practice begins. I think they practice for a week or two, and then they go home for a month and they come back again, etc. And in the middle of all this, the Los Angeles Lakers call up and say, "Hey, we want you to be our coach, and we want to give you, we want to give you more money than you can imagine, all the benefits you can imagine, everything you've ever dreamed of, um, and we're going to fly you out here, and we don't want you to leave town today until we have an agreement." And then you can go back to the University of Connecticut and give your notice to the students and to your administration, and then get back out here to LA and start planning. And this is nothing new. This happens in Division I sports frequently.
Okay, so my
What,
hot take,
what's your take on that?
my take is that he said he wasn't going anywhere.
He said that, right, about a week ago, if not
He said it
less.
constantly from the time that they won in March or April, whenever
I think
the
he said it
final
three
game
nights
was.
ago at a
And he has said it consistently up until
right.
very recently.
Yeah.
So he should not be in LA interviewing for another job.
Interesting. So this is what I'm talking about. Thank you for bringing this up. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to leadership. So why shouldn't he be in LA? Because he said
Because,
that.
yes,
So as part of being a good leader, a high
part of being a
quality,
good human is doing what you say you're going to do.
aha, I like it. This is what I'm getting at. This is good. So you tell, for example, I'll make it up. Student athlete from Georgia, one from Minnesota, and one from Northern California. You spend months convincing them that the University of Connecticut is the place to be. I'm going to be your coach and I'm going to help you get to the NBA. And it's a tough
I don't
decision
think,
for the,
I think you're making it more complicated than it has to be.
no, but
I understand.
he tells them in their living room,
I understand.
I will be your coach.
Yeah, he's told the nation in front of cameras. He's told everybody.
That's why we're having this conversation. So let me ask you this, part of being a good leader. If in the meetings today in Los Angeles, they give him and everything he ever wanted.
I, when is it enough? He makes enough money. He makes
He
enough
makes
money
it.
now. That's not that it's this isn't about making enough money.
So what does that tell? What's the message that's sent to kids, student athletes, parents?
That it doesn't matter what you say, that you shouldn't believe anybody, you can't count on anybody, and that
Right,
no matter what they say, if a better offer comes along, they'll take it.
right,
I think it's really irresponsible.
right. And that's what I was driving at. And you help me with this every week. I know I circled the neighborhood a few times, but for the last half hour, that's what I'm driving at.
Well, I'm glad we got there.
We did get there, and thank you for that. But that's what I'm driving at. So if you are a leader and you say you're going to do something, and you want us to make good decisions when it comes to how to be a business leader when I grow up, how to be
Just
a
model decent
coach.
behavior.
Yeah.
This isn't rocket science. Model
Oh,
everybody needs in an ideal world should model decent behavior, and step one of decent behavior is doing what you say you're going to do. It's called integrity.
so let me ask you this, just to spend a few more minutes on it before we wrap up today. Take it out of basketball. Now we move it to the corporate workplace. I'm never going to sell my company. And then somebody says, "Hey, we'll give you guys $2 billion to sell it to us."
You don't have to create other examples. I think it carries across I think it carries across age ranges. I think it carries across jobs. I think it carries across it's not just leaders. It's about it's fundamental to being a decent human being.
And that, my friends, is what I'm trying to get at.
Doing what
And
you say you're going to do.
when we're on this show and we're discussing technologies and we're wringing our hands about this and that, or we're talking about this rule or that law, or how we use this product, it really all comes back to some very, very, very simple rules that we should all do our best to adhere to. And when we get misguided, we end up having these conversations called digital dilemmas because we have a lot of corporations and a lot of people who are not doing that. That's my gut.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Like if you own
Probably
Twitter
true.
and you say, yeah, we don't want anything bad on Twitter, and then there's something bad on Twitter and you don't do anything about it. Same conversation you just brought up about the basketball coach at the University of Connecticut,
Danny Hurley,
uh,
you can say his name.
Danny Hurley. Yeah, same conversation. Hey, Elon, you said you weren't going to do this. Well, oh well, I made a lot of money.
So I think it'll be interesting, and I think we will find out in the next couple days. Um, but to me, here it's already not too late, but he shouldn't be in LA having these conversations. It
Well, I
never
didn't.
should have gotten this far.
You know what? I posted on Facebook that, I get it. It's the Lakers. If the Lakers or Celtics call, great. If it's the Washington Wizards, it goes to voicemail.
That's
But to
that's
your,
that's horrible.
I
That's just another version of if it's more money, then it's okay.
I get it. You're right. Because before I posted that, I think I was in a place where he could easily over the last 24 hours just say, no, I told everybody I'd be here, so I'm being here. So end of story. Goodbye. But he didn't. And I think at some point I got persuaded to thinking, you know what, if you really want to go, just go.
I guess we'll
Um,
see.
I do like the way you simplified it, that when, for example, at the end of the current season when they won, and he was asked that question because he was being pursued by other universities, he said what you said. No,
I'm staying in Connecticut. He has been very clear and very consistent that he is staying in Connecticut, that he is the leader of this program, and that's what he wants to do, and that he is not entertaining any other suggestions.
well, I guess we'll find out in the next 24 hours.
Well, I think we've already found out a lot about Danny Hurley.
Yeah, I think once you get on the plane and you head to the meeting, I said to a few friends of mine in a conversation, I said, when you get on the plane, you're only on the plane to hear the final 10% of the conversation
Yeah,
because his agent has already negotiated the other 90.
I
All
think
right,
we
everybody.
did.
Amber, can you take us out?
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you have any questions or suggestions for guests or for topics, please feel free to email us at digitaldilemmas@lenk.media, and we will incorporate that into our upcoming shows. Thank you so much.
All right, Digital Dilemma fans, that wraps up another episode. Thanks for tuning in and navigating our tech world with us.
Please rate us and leave a review. And if you enjoyed it, tune in next time. We'd also love it if you would send us any questions or suggest guests via email. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Digital Dilemmas is a Lenk Media original podcast.